So, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Improving Season podcast with me, Pascal, and on the other end is Steve Hall. Now, 2 weeks have passed. Still, for you guys, nothing was actually changing because the Improving Season was still pre-recorded and being released over the past 2 weeks. Here we are, though, after a longer period of time. And Steve, how are you doing? What are you up to? And I can see one more time a Dragon Ball Z T-shirt. You're really rocking the Dragon Ball Z stuff at the moment. I can see that also over on your Instagram as well.
This is it was funny. I was watching it came up on Instagram. It was like a reel about like what traits you have to say you're like you may have ADHD or something. I never thought I had anywhere close to it, but it said just some things where it's like you find something, you just get overly obsessed with it, and I'm like, that's exactly what I do with stuff. Like with Dragon Ball, I just recently watched like all of Super, and then I'm just like, fuck, I just love this shit. And I'm even watching now. Here and there, like I see a YouTube video will come up, it'll be like Goku versus Superman, who will win? And I'm just like, I'm watching that stupid shit. I'm just like, why do I even care? But I've had this t-shirt. I think I got it for my 30th birthday from my sister. So yeah, I've had this t-shirt a while. Actually, I wore it. Maybe, yeah, I've had it even longer than that. Maybe it's a couple of years old. So
now I do remember where you've worn that shirt, and that is when we had our Christmas get together, and you've been wearing that shirt at Muscle Works, right? Because I do remember that thumbnail where you're just like, I don't know, looking somewhere with your red hat because you just finished a set or so. I think that was the shirt, right?
It is, yeah. So I think I even have. Maybe I'll be seeing my parents next week. I'm going home for the dentist, which I'm really late to go to the dentist. It's still at home. So I think they've even maybe got a t-shirt that they had bought me for Christmas. So I might have another one coming. I did ask for one. So we'll see if I get another one. But yeah, in terms of how I'm doing, I mean, pretty good. I can't really complain. In Deload weeks are always a bit weird in that I kind of, at times I feel really fresh and good, and then other times I'm like, I feel super beat up and tired. It's just a bit of a weird week. This always happens, and I end up normally WhatsApping you and sending you a voice message and I overthink things, or like, I don't know, just things come into my mind like, oh, am I doing this right? Whereas when you're in the thick of program and in the thick of training, you don't have time to think about it, and you're just like dialed in and it's fine. I haven't really had that. I've just felt a bit like, I guess, yeah, sometimes in deloads and this time, there's just times I felt a little bit like directionlessness, like I have no direction and I just feel a bit lost, and I'm just like, I start thinking about, oh no, like next week's my active recovery week and then prep, and I'm like, I've only got like, I think it's 18 weeks before my first show, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 18 weeks, that doesn't sound like long enough. Am I going to be ready in time? So yeah, I don't like to go into all of those things too much, but they definitely stress me out. That is exactly what I'm like, though, and you know it. I overthink things like over and over again about like just so many different, maybe some things I don't, but a lot of these sort of things I do. And that's why I know I asked, like, can I have you in my corner for this prep? Which sounds funny. People might listen to that and be like, of course Pascal's going to be in your corner. And like, right. But there is a level of like, there's someone just being in your corner, and there's someone like really being in your corner to who you can rely upon. And I know from last time, like there were just times where I was stressing myself out, where if I just had someone like you, who I was just like, oh, Pascal said I can reach out to him and kind of rely upon him, like having someone I trust. And like I said, if you tell me, Steve, chill out, everything's all right, you're on track, that's all I need. And I will, like, I just know my stress levels will come right down, because I've done it with other stuff with you before where I'm just like stressed about, don't know, a certain thing, and you're just like, dude, it's fine. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, that's, I guess, where I am right now. Like I said to you, I kind of just want that active recovery week, which I am looking forward to, but I'm also like, I don't know, it's like a holiday. You're kind of like looking forward to the holiday, but also like stressed about the holiday, especially when you're self-employed, because it's like work and everything. So yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. And once I get into it, I'll feel really good, I'm sure, and I'll enjoy it. And then there'll be a bit of stress coming back out of it. But yeah, that's where I'm kind of at the moment.
Yeah. What are the plans again? In regards to the holiday?
So this week, next week it's an active recovery week. kind of, and I'm going to the Cotswolds, which is like, went to the Lake District last time. It's again just like hikes. So I'm going with my friend who I went with last time, Cameron, and we're just going to go for like some hikes around there for a few days, which should be really nice. Just similar to exactly like I did in the Lake District, which I don't think that vlog has been released to the YouTubes yet, but
don't know.
The member site people will know it. So that was really great last time. Just being able to, I don't know, socialize a little bit and chill out and come back a little bit recharged. And I mean, I need it from I just feel I'm dragging. I felt like I told you, like this whole mesocycle, I felt like a little bit like I was flagging and dragging. I still saw really good like training and it was good. It just definitely wasn't the best.
Was it because of the transition now back into the gym and you felt like now that you've reintroduced some of the machine movements, they were more systemically demanding or so?
I don't think it was that. It was after my last mesocycle and after that deload, I came into week 1 and I already was like, I just don't want to really be training. Like my motivation to train was a bit lower. I just felt a bit like just not super into it. As similar to you, I'm just robotic, so I will just do it and I will execute. And there's no I won't not do sessions, but I just think it wasn't as productive a mesocycle as what maybe I would have been if I'd had like some maybe an active recovery at some point. I was kind of due one, so definitely in a position where if I tried to push after this deload, I think it would just be like just pushing against a brick wall kind of thing.
But how was it now? The last time we spoke, you've only managed to get in like 2 sessions back at the gym, and now it's already 2 weeks overall. And how was it so far?
Yeah, weirdly, I think this happened last time. It just feels normal. Like it already feels like this is just like the gym's never shut. It's just I go to the gym and I train. So yeah, it's been really nice getting back in there. Even like I've had this cable machine thing, but I've started using like the lat pull down, the cables at the gym. And I'm like, they're better at the gym. Like they just are better. Like this thing, whatever it is, it just isn't quite as smooth. It doesn't feel quite right. Whereas in the gym, it's like, oh, this is a bit different. So yeah, it's been nice getting back in there. It has been like at least 25% busier just in general. Like there's definitely more people in there. Yeah, which is, I mean, it's fine, but at home, the great thing is there's no waiting around for any equipment. Whereas there could be every rack taken if you are unfortunate, or if I want to do a Smith machine, there's only 2. They could the Smith machines seem to be taken all the time, which is annoying. But yeah, it's been great getting back in there, particularly like the seated leg curl was huge, hack squats really big. So they've been great to do.
Do you have any numbers how many gyms in London, so just like in London now for this question, have or needed to shut, so close entirely due to the coronavirus situation?
I actually have no idea, but I do know one of my friends who lives in Vauxhall with me, that he knew of someone who owned like a CrossFit gym, like underneath Vauxhall Bridge, and he said they had to close quite early on within. So I imagine there's a lot like of those like quite small like private gyms that just haven't been able to survive. I know I forget what it was called, but there was a place we booked for the seminar last year, and that was a really small boutique-y little gym underneath. Yeah. I don't know if they've survived.
Performance, I think, right?
That one's a bit fancier than the one we were going to book this time around. That was a more powerlifting focused one.
The other
one,
I
don't know. I haven't actually seen their Instagrams. They haven't popped up in my feed or anything.
I was just wondering now that you've said that there have been like 25, or it feels like as if there's 25% more people around. I was just wondering whether this is just due to people now still wanting to train now that they can, but there aren't enough gyms around any longer that can take on that many people, and that's why the ones who are still around need to take all of the people on now. So yeah,
I have a feeling, just because someone said they went to the Oxford Street branch of the gym and said it was like dead. They're like, no one's in there. They're at like 10% capacity or something. I think because this is quite a residential area, a lot of the residential areas, people are now working from home, or they're still working from home, not transitioned into like offices. It's like Oxford Street, unless you're a retail worker, like no one's in the head offices over there at the moment, or not many. So I think maybe somewhere like, I don't know, the bank, like in bank, where it's a lot of like businesses and people are probably working at home, so they're not making use of those gyms. I have a feeling that might be related as well. There's probably loads of things.
How's this situation now in regards to, so this is not fitness related per se, but now it kind of ties into the gym environment or the gyms around the working districts. How's the situation now with home office and also people who need to get back into the office? Is it that home office is still a thing? Do you need to work from at home, or so not particularly you, but people in general?
So I know for Charlotte, she is doing like 1 day a week in the office at the moment.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm pretty sure she said she was meant to be in today, but she's not. Now you say that, I swear last night she was like, I'm in the office tomorrow, remember? And she's not in the office. She's at home. So yeah, she's been going in like once a week. So I think that's probably reflective of a lot of other places where they're doing like 1 or 2 days in. I know my friend Charlie, who lives in Vauxhall, he's doing like, I think majority of days he's in at work, but he does like 2 days at home. So I think a lot of people are, and a lot of like businesses are just saying like, we can do a bit of mix and match, what suits you and what suits the business and stuff. And I think a lot of businesses are probably like, this is great. We can close down this massive office we were renting and maybe we only need half capacity because we can have half the employees in the first half of the week, second half, they rotate, go home. And I mean, people have been working from home so long. I mean, Charlotte's probably one of the only people that haven't bought like a desk and a chair, and they've got like a setup, whereas she's still working on the on the kitchen table.
Right.
Yeah, not quite. Well, yeah, I don't know if the couch is worse. The kitchen chairs are not comfy.
Yeah. I was just wondering because the UK is, of course, a couple of steps ahead in regards to, or in comparison to other countries. Was just wondering how the situation is like right now, because you don't really hear that much in Germany in regards to other countries, other than when there's a huge crisis going on, for example.
India.
That's what I was thinking about, but you don't really hear about the countries where things are going well. So I was just wondering how the situation is like. And of course, this then impacts also like gyms, and I can't even imagine what it must be like for people who were gym owners here over the past year now. Yeah. Especially when you're not like a franchise who's probably backed by a lot of money as well, but it's just like your own small little gym, and then having a gym in a city like London, that is one of the most expensive cities in the world. I can only imagine that it must be devastating, actually.
Yeah, it's super. Yeah. I can't even imagine what it must be like for them. And owning a gym like that is, I know, expensive and scary enough as it is, let alone with what just happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, I can't remember when the next changes are coming in. There's some coming in soon where like groups of like bigger groups can meet up and stuff. And yeah, we're still just, you're allowed to eat outside now and like have drinks outside. So like a lot of the places around here are packed out like through the evenings and stuff, which is it's kind of nice to see people again and like people being a bit more normal and relaxed, which is cool. But yeah, I know how have things changed? Because I know you had holiday last week, but it didn't really go as you planned.
Yeah, no, due to some kind of changes in regards to the regulations, we needed to cancel the camper trip because of a curfew that took place or was in place then, so that we couldn't really leave the house after 10 p.m. So because of that, of course, going on a camper trip is not possible for us, or wasn't possible for us. So we actually needed to then stay at home, which is unfortunate, which was then highlighting or marking the beginning of my holiday. And I hired someone to actually build a wall here in my office, because at some point when the kids are growing older, they obviously need their own rooms, separate rooms. And this is then the time where Katie and I will move our bedroom upstairs. And I'm working very early in the morning, and she of course wants to sleep in, especially when the kids are growing older and also are sleeping in. And because of that, we actually decided to actually put up a wall. The thing is that guy who built that wall, he always was late, and I'm not talking about like minutes late. I'm referring to like 1.5 hours late, and I hate it when people are late. This is one of the things that this is a no-go for me. Like honestly, I hate it. and he was late every single day, right? And I needed to plan my day around him because he was here at home. I needed to leave him in, or let him in. And also, it took him longer than anticipated in building that wall, which is also a little bit of a bummer, because by the end of the week, I basically spent my entire holiday with that guy who built that wall. And this is not how I imagined my holiday to be like. But yeah, it is what it is. That's the highlight, is that, yeah, I was spending my holiday together with that guy.
Well, do you know his name at least?
Wait a second, I have an email here. Borge. So
you won't be referring people to him for work?
Probably not.
You were deloading, right?
Yes, in that week I was deloading. That's correct. No, the week prior to that. Okay. I planned in deloading, so taking just like a couple of days where I'm not training over the time when we were actually on a camper trip. Then I just said like, okay, camper trip is not happening, so I'm not taking an entire deload afterwards. I'm actually then just like taking 5 days of a rest and then directly starting with the next mesocycle. So I ended my last mesocycle on that Thursday, I think, and then on that Tuesday I picked it back up. So I was always training before he actually came, because I knew that when he said he's going to arrive here at 8, that it's probably going to be somewhere around 10. So I had plenty of time in the morning to actually get my training sessions in. And for me personally, I always like to train early in the morning, but this is also the time when I'm doing my client check-ins. And when I don't have client check-ins, it's kind of such a relief and time. I don't feel the pressure kind of now finishing my training session so that I can start working. And it's always kind of a relief. That's why I also have changed a little bit, or have made some changes to my workout schedule. So I'm right now starting my training week on a Friday. Then I'm training Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then Monday rest, simply because Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I don't have any kind of client check-ins. Monday is my most busy day. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm then... is that start? Yeah, that is the start of the week, actually. So the start of the kind of mesocycle. And that's how I've found is the best way in structuring things at the moment.
That makes a ton of sense to me, because I'm similar with that in terms of like getting check-ins done to train and what have you. Because I take Sundays off though, not because now I'm sounding like I'm kind of contradicting myself, but the reason I take Sundays off is because if like me and Charlotte want to do something and like it's incredibly inflexible when I need to try and get my sessions in all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Even like I remember when I had weekends, I used to take weekends off. Like I train 5 days a week, have weekends off. That was great. But I did start finding, I was like, so many times we do nothing on the weekend. I at least want to train once. So then I was like, I'm doing Saturdays.
And this is actually what I found myself as well, because right now everything's shut, right? And Katie's already also at a point where she says like, I just want to do something with the kids that is something else other than playing in the garden or going to the playground. But showing them the world, going to a zoo, going to, I don't know, some museum, whatever, right? But doing something. And this is something that we couldn't do since like month already. And now, because of that, we sometimes and also because the weather was quite shitty over the past couple of weeks now, very, very cold, very rainy still. And that's why we sometimes even ended up just spending the days or the weekends at home and not doing much, right? And this is also where I thought like, okay, I can spend the time quite nicely, take advantage of the situation, train here very relaxed in the morning without any kind of pressure. Because sometimes, especially like last year in the summertime, when we had some plans and I was doing twice daily training, that was where on the weekends sometimes it was quite complicated to get both training sessions in and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's why my Saturday session, I don't do twice daily. I'd like sit down for 10 minutes in between like my compounds and then my accessories there. Because twice twice daily, like we've said before, it's not for everyone because it doesn't suit everyone's lifestyles. But something I don't even know how I used to do check-ins, but for the longest time, I do check-ins and then I train. So I know you said you like training first thing, but I hated the idea of having to rush sessions to do my check-ins. So.
I mean, it also changed over the years. There was a time where I was doing it like I have it right now, where I get up in the morning and I just did my training session first, then came back and listened to the check-ins and then did the check-ins right away. And I was always doing like, listen to one check-in and recording the check-in, listen to one check-in, recording check-in. And this has always then changed over the years. And it can possibly even change in the future, depending on, of course, what is going on in my life. And I think that you have to be flexible at times. But the way I do it right now is actually I get up in the morning, I listen to all of my check-ins, do some notes. Then I actually, because I need also and want to have a break from the monitors as well. So then I prepare myself in doing the training session, do the training session, have breakfast, come back, and then I record all of my check-in videos, which is also quite beneficial because that allows me to first and foremost be once again very energetic, because otherwise it's like you're listening to all of the check-ins, which can take a longer period of time, making notes, and that can be draining already in it for itself. And if you don't have a break in between, then sometimes you're not as energetic and fresh anymore when you then have to go through all of the client check-ins. But right now it's like I have the training session, I have breakfast in between, and then I'm ready for the next bout. It's like as if someone is going to the office, they're doing the first task for that day, then they are having like a coffee break or a cigarette or whatever, right? And then they're coming back for the second task or so. That's what works quite nicely for me right now. But once again, that has changed so much over the past years. I've also once done it like this, where I had all of the check-ins before the training sessions, for example, right? But yeah, I think this is once again something where you just like need to be flexible and figure out what works for you as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of spreading them out a little bit. Because sometimes I do feel like it's a lot in one go, and because I do the listen to everyone and then do all the videos. But yeah, the most tiring thing, I think you'll agree, is recording those video check-ins.
Yeah.
Sometimes like I do like, maybe I can do like, I'm good if I get like 3 done in a row without doing something else to like just get my mind like, I don't know, look at Instagram or something for a second and then I go back to it. So yeah, spreading those out it's and I like the idea of going to the gym a little bit earlier, then maybe doing my PM session a bit earlier, just to get it like, I don't know, out the way and as such. So I don't know, food for thought at least. Something I did want to pick you up on actually is just because I'm interested. So I think you said Katie gets up later than you.
Yeah.
Right? Do you go to bed at the same time?
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of the Revive Stronger member site. Inside you'll find a thriving forum, a growing exercise library, presentations, research reviews, and courses. If you want to get involved, sign up via the description.
Sometimes, not always. Okay. So I'm always going to bed around 9 p.m. I know very early, but I'm also getting up at 5 a.m. in the morning, which then equals to around 8 hours of sleep per night. And that is great. And that works quite nicely for me. And I got into the groove of things of this. And everyone who's experiencing some kind of sleep issues, I would just highly encourage to always try to go to bed at the same time and get up at the same time as well. And I know what I'm talking about because I had massive sleep issues in the past. And that doesn't mean that this is the only solution and the fix for actually your sleeping issues, but that can be one major contributing factor why you have issues sleeping. When you're going to bed one day at 11, and then get up at 5 still, right? And then the next day you're going to bed at 9, but you're sleeping up until 6. We are creatures of habits, and especially also there, the body is quite good at then making that a habit, and also probably due to hormonal releases and all that kind of stuff. When we're just taking a look at something like ghrelin, for example, you can prime and train ghrelin even, so just your hunger hormone, and I think that's probably somewhat the same when it comes to melatonin and also the entire sleeping procedure as well. And Yeah, Katie depends on how she feels. Sometimes she gets to bed earlier than me, sometimes later than me. Earlier, most of the time, only when she fell asleep when she brought Hugo to bed. So I'm bringing Tony to bed, Katie brings Hugo to bed, and sometimes she just falls asleep, and then she comes down and says like, I'm too tired, I'm going straight to bed. So yeah, that's how it is.
It's interesting to me, but you're more extreme than me. So you're like 2 hours more extreme than me. So I get up at like just before 7 and I go to bed. Normally it's like 10:30 I go to bed. But you're more extreme in that 10:30 is not even that late. So and I imagine this doesn't happen to you too much, but when there are social things, like for example, I don't know, we have like a seminar and people stay out until like midnight. I struggle so bad. Or if Charlotte wants to go out with friends and stuff and invite me, and I'm like, it's like 10 and I'm like, shit, this isn't good. And they're like, we're staying out for another 4 hours.
So the good thing is we all had the excuse of COVID right now. So I didn't need to actually participate in those kind of social gatherings for a very long time, which in it for itself is actually a positive thing. Of course, I would love to see more people once again, but having the opportunity of then not doing something like that because it does interfere with your normal schedule and routine is actually kind of a silver lining. And if you really want to pick out something positive here. While at the same time, though, of course, before that, it was, especially when I was traveling to the UK, due to the time zone difference, for me, it's even later.
Another hour.
Yeah, and now another hour, and then it's already like, okay, when it's normally my bedtime, and I'm already going to bed, I'm super tired. It's first 8 in the UK, and it's just like, holy shit, how should I even survive?
We've just finished dinner.
yeah.
We'll book a dinner for like 7 p.m.
yeah, but I know that this is, of course, harder then. And this is also why I can sometimes understand that people have a hard time getting in plenty of sleep when they have a quite active social life, or they are not just like, I don't know, me, where it's like, okay, I just have a very strict daily routine, going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time. And sometimes for other people, it's simply not like that because they are first arriving back home at around, I don't know, 7, 8 p.m. or so, then they still want to spend a little bit of time with their family or especially with their partner. And sometimes they just have to be awake a little bit longer so that they can actually still participate in life and not just do, I don't know, training and work.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to me because for me at least, I liked getting up, like, this is late for me, like just before 7. I preferred getting up at like, there was times I was getting up at like 6 or like 5:30. I think that when I prep, I have a feeling some of those early mornings are going to start to creep in because they just tend to. I don't know why. I end up sleeping less when I'm on prep.
Yeah. But the beauty is the weather is actually getting better outside, so you can always then get up in the morning and just go out on a walk. And I find it so refreshing because I have now the treadmill at home. And going on a walk here, even though it's right in front of my window, it's simply not the same. I can tell you that. It's nice, though, that you don't have to go out, I don't know, when it's raining or when it's snowing, when it's super cold. But in the summertime, when the sun is already shining, I will definitely go out on a walk in the morning time instead of taking my morning walk here on the treadmill. Right now, I'm still doing it on the treadmill, but also because the last 2 days was still -7 degrees in the morning time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And that at the beginning of May. Just let that sink for a moment. But anyway, this is something that you then can take advantage of. And I always say now that the weather is getting better for the majority of our athletes as well. I even say like, okay, to the people who are cutting right now, hey, this is a great time that things are possibly getting harder now in the diet because things will even get easier. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but now that you're getting leaner, normally you would expect that things are getting harder, which probably is the case. But because the weather is getting better, you'll probably be more active. Because you're more active, you will think less about food. And because it's getting warmer outside, most of the time what people are experiencing is less hunger as well. So all of those three factors play a huge role in the most of the time success in a cutting phase. And I find it so much easier when the weather is actually starting to get better, to just be more active. And even that fact alone, to be less food focused. Instead of sitting at home, so often people start just thinking about food out of boredom as well.
Yeah. No, the weather's been better here. I was telling you how it's actually been quite bright here, even quite warm some days. And I've definitely had clients who have said already that it's like, the better weather. So I've been doing more steps, what have you. So it's only the guys or girls who are massing, and it's like, sit your ass down, stop moving. Yeah. You're not eating enough as it is. Yeah. So that becomes tricky. I'm very much looking forward to not having to stuff my face anymore. I won't complain too much.
And then after 4 weeks, it's like,
I know, I'll regret.
I would love to actually eat more. Cool. Shall we get over to the questions? We are halfway in here.
Sure.
Cool. Then let's go over to the questions here over on Facebook. What it is that Steve and I discussed, actually, just by the way, to mention that, is that we will collect the questions for the next Improvement Season podcast in the comments section of the actual episode. Makes much more sense instead of you guys going over to revivestronger.com, to Facebook and then the revivestronger.com Facebook group, then ask the questions there. Doesn't really make sense. Just ask the questions for the next episode here, then always in the episode that you're listening to. All right.
And I guess we'll prioritize the ones that have been most upvoted. If there's a lot, then we can prioritize those. And I guess if you're a Patreon supporter, because we have those, still just comment in here and say you're a Patreon supporter. And likewise, if you're on the members site, we still have the members site kind of forum there, so you can ask over there if you want yours prioritized.
Absolutely. So let's start with Andrew White, a supporter, of course. Steve, I would love to know more about your vegetarian adventures in bodybuilding. I know Charlotte is vegan. What kind of influence has she had on you in terms of how you view food, protein, in context of your bodybuilding passion?
So, yeah, it's something, I think if I wasn't with someone she was vegetarian for a long time. She's only become vegan really last year, quite strictly vegan, to be honest. I always like to think of these things on a spectrum of you're not like black and white. It's a bit unrealistic to be black and white vegan. If you can slip up, you might eat something that you didn't realize or what have you. So, but she's right over here. And I'm certainly not right over there. But for a long time, obviously she was vegetarian. So I definitely changed my eating habits to kind of align a little bit more with her values, just because I wanted to do that for her, first of all. And then also she was just educate me a little bit behind some of the moral kind of aspects of it and the ethics of how chickens are treated, for example, or how slaughterhouses are, and it's not comfortable. I would say ignorance is quite nice to some of those things, because it's not nice what's happening there, and that did change my eating behavior a little bit, where I was like, it's unrealistic for me, just because of the complications of going vegan, especially as we spoke to with Eric, although it's definitely manageable. But there's still just more you have to think about, and I'm not sure. I'm just not there, and she doesn't expect me to be there. But I definitely started having more whey protein, for example, more dairy, for example, egg whites, eggs. I was having a lot of. I barely ever eat chicken, only if maybe I'm out and I need something, or a lean protein source, and there's a chicken sandwich in a Boots or a kind of Sainsbury's or what have you, and I need to get in some kind of protein that way. Obviously, I could go veggie or vegan, but there's always lots of tag-along fats and things like this, and it gets a little bit tricky. So yeah, I don't eat that very often. I have venison 2 to 3 times a week normally, venison steaks, which I hope are potentially a little bit more moral and ethical because of what venison is and the way it lives and all that stuff. But I might just be being ignorant to how Waitrose get their venison. I don't know. And I really enjoy venison. It provides me a lot of things that I want it to in terms of being a red meat. Again, I could get it from other sources. There's no real, as Eric kind of made clear, there's no real excuse from I can't be a bodybuilder and be vegan. You can, it's just, you have to be prepared to make some sacrifices in terms of what you're going to eat, what you aren't going to eat, and supplement with, and all of these things, and think about it a bit more. And I'm just not confident and comfortable enough to do that yet. So I then have salmon, and I will eat kind of fish. I was relying a little bit more on fish than meat. I'm not a big fan of fish. Like, I'll eat tin tuna and I'll have like salmon and smoked salmon in particular, but I just don't like cooking fish. I don't like meals that are fishy. I'm not keen on it. So I know recently, I don't know if you saw it, Conspiracy came out, or Seaspiracy, something like that, on Netflix. It was like a big thing about how...
I don't watch those kind of documentaries because they are always so dogmatic and like very much black and white, and they are just trying to be kind of very, very controversial, and often not really evidence-based, cherry picking and all that kind of stuff.
That's the unfortunate truth of it as well. But I don't want to be like, it's not like, there's some small truths to some of these things. I know there is, and Charlotte only does it from like an ethical standpoint, really. There are some sustainability arguments and environmental, but I think they're the ones that are less certain and a bit more questionable, and you can do a lot more. Like Menno even said on a recording I did with him, it was like, if you just like don't use your dishwasher or your washing machine or something, because that's one of the worst things for the environment. Or even having a child. He used the example of like having kids, because you're putting another consumer on the planet, which is a funny example, but it makes you think like outside the box, which I think is interesting. Totally. So the one thing I am considering doing is replacing one of my servings of whey that I normally have with a vegan protein, just because I have no reason it needs to be whey. And there was the study that came out on like I think it was like a rice pea blend, which can be used. And if it tastes all right, which I think it'll be okay if I get like a, more expensive brand, I'll probably do. But yeah, I mean, I don't see myself going vegan or vegetarian anytime soon, but it's just, I'm more aware of it because of Charlotte, and she doesn't expect it of me, but she definitely likes it. And some of the struggles I have with a lot of vegan stuff, at least I see that Charlotte has as well. A lot of it is highly processed, and like fried and not really bodybuilding friendly. I know you can find stuff that probably is more so that way, but like a lot of it, I'm just like, this isn't probably healthier than like having a slice of ham. And I'm not that I'd eat ham, but it's certainly better to just have like a steak than like this really highly processed, like loads of different things. So yeah, taking everything into account, that's kind of where I am with things. It does make me uncomfortable though sometimes, even talking about like the ethical and moral stuff, because it's challenging.
No, absolutely.
I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I have many thoughts, to be honest, because not that long ago I was always like, no, I will always eat meat, right? Also simply because I was possibly too dogmatic about what reality looks like, and it sounds like a conspiracy theory, right? So when you're talking with a vegan or vegetarian, then most of the time, if you are not fully open and really listening to what they have to say, it sounds like as if they are just talking from an emotional perspective, and that always puts me off. No matter what it is, it doesn't need to be veganism or vegetarians or whatever, right? When someone is talking emotionally, most of the time I'm taking distance from that, because of course it's coming from their perspective, their biases, their beliefs, viewpoints, etc., etc. And I don't think that arguing in that kind of way is the way to try to convince someone else. At least that's my opinion. However, I've also first and foremost listened to the Eric Traxler thing, and secondarily, I was just discovering that German YouTube a channel that is called, I can't ever pronounce that, Simplicismus, and that is on German, right? And they are doing freakingly good videos. And at first you always think like, no, that can't be true, but they are also very, very good in researching stuff. And they have an entire team, and they are not just cherry picking things, which is something that then very much resonated with me, where they then also addressed the thing about, do we have to eat meat, for example, or is it beneficial to actually be a vegan or vegetarian? They didn't do it in that kind of way as many documentaries do it, like every meat eater is a fucking asshole, that's the worst person in the world, such as many documentaries and also people do, right? But they did it in a very, very rational manner, which so much resonated with me that this was the reason why it made me rethink and reevaluate whether I want to continue eating as much meat as I do, or maybe I need to reduce the frequency, or maybe change even entirely to a vegan diet or vegetarian diet. Like, honestly. And in my opinion, this is the way how you can get the attention of people such as me, for example. I know some people react very, very, very well to those emotional triggers, but that wasn't me. So after this documentary, I was really thinking like, yeah, maybe I should reduce my meat consumption, especially because I'm right now eating a lot of animal products. And because of that, I'm probably doing not my part in making things any kind of better. Actually, probably I'm one of the reasons why they are benefiting from, I don't know, the growth, and they can continue doing what they are doing, which then actually brings up the ethical question as well. And then the question is just like, do I really need to continue eating the way that I do things right now? And the real answer is no. The only reason why I haven't transitioned over to it yet is out of convenience. I am too lazy. That's the simple truth. I'm too lazy sitting down, actually really making that change, because in the beginning it would probably require a lot of effort and reevaluation and rethinking of how to structure my diet, and also what products I can consume. Even though that I'm living in a city that has a huge community when it comes to vegans and vegetarians, there's even like an area called Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg where you can find lots of restaurants and stuff like that are kind of vegan and vegetarian only. I still find it too inconvenient for me, where I have to just walk around too mindfully. And I already am eating quite mindfully when it comes to the things, because of tracking macros, being aware of those kind of things. And once again, I'm just too lazy. And right now, the jump of making that transition is still too inconvenient for me. And if it's too inconvenient for me, I think the jump is even bigger for other people, right? Because the products are still way more expensive in the supermarket, because it's of course not produced in mass. And also it's way more inconvenient in finding those things. And if I were to eat out, I would always need to do double the amount of effort in finding places, making sure that things are vegan and vegetarian and all that kind of stuff. Right now, I know it sounds like a lot of excuses, but I think this is a valid point of criticism, so that things can change possibly in society, that they are changing these kind of things so that it's easier for the vast majority of people to make that change. Right? Because people would only make that change if it doesn't require a lot of their effort. That's also why things such as the iPhone, for example, was so successful, because it just makes the life for so many people so much easier. And also, this is why other technology will evolve. If things just make our life so much easier, people will adopt that. And the same goes then for kind of vegetarian stuff, vegan stuff. Right now, it's still, even though that I'm living in Berlin, a little bit more of a pain to get your hands on these things. And it's not just like it's just not a no-brainer where you can just go out and you always have an equal amount of vegetarian or vegan products, but you have to make that additional effort. And once again, just to boil it down, I'm too lazy right now to make that transition, but I'm also aware that I probably would like to decrease my frequency of animal product consumption.
I think that's very fair and honest. I think that's where I lie with it as well. What was I going to say? Yeah, one thing I was going to say is it is a little more complicated for people like us. For example, I imagine if neither of us like track macros, we didn't do what we did, like it's a no-brainer. Like there's a vegan burger on the menu.
Totally.
That seems like it's probably a better choice. It's still going to be tasty. I'll do that. So if I'm like having a burger, I quite often will just be like, cool, me and Charlotte, we have vegan burger takeaway or whatever. I'll have a protein shake on the side, like to get my protein in. That's cool. But if it's like, day to day, that regularly, that's when it's, it isn't as like egg whites, super convenient. Put them in the microwave. I've got a great like low fat protein source that's high quality, but there aren't that many examples where that's possible for vegan products. There's like vegan equivalents, but they're quite often the macros just on them aren't equivalent. So like you said, it's kind of an element of, it's not at the level where it's as convenient as just an easy transition. I said this to Charlotte, I was like, if they can have like meat that they grow in Petri dishes and stuff, and it's just like, this is a fake steak, this is a real steak, they're the same, just this one is actually from an animal, this one isn't. I'd have the one that isn't, like no brainer. That is a no brainer. But we're not there yet. So, but I think that is probably coming. I imagine they're doing some of that shit.
Very, very likely. I've even seen like years ago that some researchers are working on it to actually create the structure of meat from non-animal products. Because the one criticism that the vast majority of normal meat eaters had when it comes to vegan products was that they were missing the structure and the texture of meat. Not even the taste or so, because that can easily be replicated, but more so the texture, right? It's crazy. And if there is like an kind of a replacement for that, same as you, I would immediately go over there without thinking twice, to be honest.
Yeah. I think probably the easiest thing I can think of is like corn mince or like soya mince versus like beef mince. Quite often if me and Charlotte have a meal, like I'm just having those. Like I'm not like, I need to have my beef mince. I just have those. It's fine. Yeah. But there isn't tons of examples like that. So where things are easy, like I said, that whey protein powder, I can easily switch that to a vegan protein powder. No brainer. But like there isn't like a high protein vegan milk, for example. Like,
and I think that the thing is, it's so easy to just like say, it doesn't really make any kind of difference. Same goes for other things when it comes to political activities or so, right? Of course, you as a single individual, you will probably not change the world, but if you don't do anything about it, then you can also not expect to change the world either, right? So perhaps you, in conjunction with 100,000 other people, can actually make a change then. And I think that as we can start probably just reducing our frequency that we are consuming animal products, and by that already have a massive impact. Because if like 20% of the population in Germany already does that, that is a shit ton of people, right? And that probably already has a positive effect. Because once again, we can't expect that the entire world immediately stops consuming animal products, but we can do a little bit of a change, every one of us, right? And that's what my takeaway was from the video, and after me thinking about it, that I can probably impact it to some extent, which also doesn't interfere with what it is that I'm doing too much right now, which doesn't really require me to think about it too much or spend too much effort and time on that, and still I can have a positive effect on those things.
I guess just in his example, it's like a no-brainer for us is like real leather versus fake leather. Like I don't know about you, but I'm not that picky over. I don't even know. I wouldn't be able to tell. So I'll just go the zero leather trainers, whatever it is. That's easy. So food is a little trickier for a bodybuilder.
That's true.
But that was a good chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully it was also good for the listeners. So going over to Matthew Lucarelli. In counting volume lately, we've been using hard sets and quotation marks. What implications does this have for previous studies where volume was equated in a different fashion and the number of hard sets were different between groups being studied?
So this is my opportunity to sound really dumb and be like, I'm not a researcher. I have not the foggiest really idea of how I'm going to try and answer this question. I actually don't know. I don't know if they're not included in this or how they equate that. It's not something I'm really sure how to go about answering at all. Like, I'm like, this is one of those ones where I'm like, I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can make me sound really stupid and know the answer now.
No, I think this is a perfect question to ask the guys over at Stronger by Science for that podcast, to be honest. They will probably have a much, much better answer than we do. But I think that does it change some things? Sure, probably. But to what extent, I can't tell you, because especially when you're also taking some meta-analyses, they always have other criteria on what they are basing the meta-analysis on, right? And then that can mean that in the future, some of those studies that have been looked at or taken into consideration aren't being taken into consideration in the future. But once again, also the research field is evolving. And at some point, we will probably have had some studies that we took for granted or that we interpreted in a way that we won't interpret in the future, or maybe some studies that will totally fall out of the spectrum and we don't even take into consideration at all anymore, right? Simply because research is always evolving. And that's why, and once again, go over to the Stronger by Science guys. They will probably have a very, very good answer. But I think that the only thing that will change in the future is that some studies will probably not be counted towards some of the meta-analyses, and some studies maybe will. And also then the study design in the future will hopefully be a little bit better, if you can actually say the term better in that sense. That's all I can say in that regard.
Yeah, I look at the question, I'm just like, I don't know, why do you need to know? Like, I don't know, like we're kind of past that point where we're not using volume load as much, and I don't know what the practical, the explanation and the true answer to this question, what that would change for you. But I understand if you're a researcher and you want to understand this kind of stuff to the nth degree, I understand why that answer could be interesting. But yeah, like you said, ask the guys who are actually looking at the research very, very closely, and they understand how to read it as well.
So next question is an interesting one. Like, honestly, I just read through it and I was just like, I want to cover that one, and I want to hear your thoughts on that. That is from Ash May. If aspiring to work for companies such as Revive or RP, do you think high-level education is a requirement, a big advantage compared to someone with experience and knowledge but no master's degree, for example?
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
So if I very quickly speak for RP, I won't speak for them for long because I have no right to do so. I would say I know they had a thing for PhDs. Like, they were like, we only bring on coaches with PhDs, which, I mean, that's a great marketing tool, right? You know, like, all our coaches have PhDs. That means they're fucking smart. So that's cool. I'm sure they have more behind their reasoning there. And I'm pretty sure they've even brought on coaches who don't have PhDs now. Like, Jared doesn't have a PhD currently. It may have been in his contract that he had to like get a PhD at some stage. I don't know if Sam, I've forgotten Sam's last name, but I don't know if he's actually a coach for RP. He does not have a PhD.
He's just jacked.
I can't remember Sam's last name.
So you either qualify through having a PhD or being absolutely shredded.
You're jacked as that. For us, none of our coaches, none of us have PhDs, or none of us even have that higher level of education within, like, none of us have like masters or degrees even within like nutrition or exercise science.
What about
so that tells
Ryan?
you a lot of what our priorities are.
Has Ryan?
Ryan. What is Ryan?
He has a master's.
He has a master's. Yeah. Sorry, I
Ryan.
Like,
so sorry, man.
Ryan was on the team and a coach before. Like, that was not a prerequisite. Yeah. And in fact, that didn't really influence my decision on bringing him on. It was his practice, his display of knowledge, his ability to like work with people and get the job done at the end of the day. He's incredible at just doing the things behind the scenes that some people may be aware of, other people may not. And he was just fully behind the brand, and he added a lot of value past any of his education, and I'm sure the education helped him, but I wouldn't say for us. And when I looked at Ryan, and like you can even I forgot about it. So that's how much importance I put towards his education there. And I'm not poo-pooing education by any means. If someone has that, it certainly, if there was two people exactly the same and one person had a master's or a PhD, I'd be like, well, maybe that edges them into where I think we should be going. But when you're a coach, I know Eric Helms has like a list of like things that are most important to be a coach, and education was not first. I don't think it was second. It may have been somewhere like third or fifth or somewhere. It's just not right up at the top. There is only so much education you need. Like actually as a coach, the principles of training and nutrition are quite like somewhat basic once you understand them, and then you apply them and you learn, like we said last time or one of the episodes previously. So you learn so much just through practice and coaching people. We want to coach. We don't want to, like, to put it horribly, bookworm. We don't want someone who can just like pull out studies from their back pocket. Like if they don't have empathy, they're not great with working with people, that sort of thing, that's not going to provide our clients as best results. So that's, I don't know if I really answered the question, but I don't think it's super important. Certainly not necessary.
Once again, oh man, I'm always so terribly sorry for you guys listening, because whenever there's a topic, I always have so many ideas on that, and I try to be concise, but most of the time I'm not. So bear with me. First and foremost, totally agree with you. If you had a scenario where you had like the two people in front of you who are very much the same, then of course it would be very much beneficial if that one individual has somewhat of an educational background, right? It doesn't hurt, that's for sure. Now, here comes more so my opinion though. So real life applications. To be honest, I don't give a crap about your education, because it doesn't tell me anything about who it is that you are, what it is that you want, if you're passionate about what it is that you do, right? Because there are so many people who just got into some kind of educational background because their parents wanted them to, because they felt pressured, because they had to pick something. And then they are at the age of whatever, 25, and then they think that they are too old and actually changing their occupation, but they have that bachelor's degree. So I better seek a job in that field, right? And I rather want to get that individual who's 30 years old, who's fire for that kind of one occupation, who really wants to make a change, right? Who has some kind of creativity, who has the right work ethic. I rather take this individual, because there is the expectation that he is really making a change and he is caring about, for example, the clients or whatever occupation that is. He will put in the work and effort. Whereas that other person who just is there because that's the thing that he learned, but in reality, he doesn't really want to do that or so, right? I never really want to take on that person. Secondarily, I think that formal education is dead. Now in the day and age of the internet, going to university, especially in a country where you're paying like fuck tons of money for a degree, just a piece of paper, all of the information, all of the content you can find online. There are even courses from high-level university that you can participate online. Yes, sometimes it also costs a little bit of money, but YouTube is a wealth of knowledge. You can basically learn everything nowadays just watching tutorials over on YouTube. And actually then, afterwards, apply for a job in that field and then earn your experience through doing that job. You don't have to pay so much money. Now here comes the caveat. I think that there are certain fields where formal education is still very much important, especially like occupations where you have to work in a lab setting or so. Doctors, when you have to work in a hospital, of course, this is something that you can't just simply learn online, right? This is something that you still have to do there and also, I don't know, interact with other people. Thing is, though, that the only benefit, true benefit I see still for something like a university is the connections and also interacting with other people. Especially when you are visiting something like an Ivy League school, sure, you will have much better chances of actually getting into those high-level paid positions. However, once again, if you are a very, very smart and passionate individual, no one in the right mind will tell you that you need first and foremost to visit a specific school and actually then being successful. And this is something. So once again, I like the financial aspect, financial realm and stuff. And while there are sure certain agencies and bigger banks who only take on like people from Ivy League schools, there have been people who have made a shit ton of money. And especially nowadays with those tech geeks, right? People, you can sit in your basement, you can create something world changing, and you don't need to have gone through any kind of university. You don't even need to have any kind of school degree. I'm not saying that you now should actually drop out of school, drop out of your university. Not what I'm saying. However, I think that formal education is not what determines the success of a person and doesn't really tell you anything about their passion, their drive, what it is that they want to do and accomplish in their life.
This is great. It's making me think of there's a board game called the Game of Life, and on the Game of Life, you can either choose to go down higher education or just continue down the path of the board. If you go down higher education, you have the chance to earn like 100 grand through whatever higher like jobs that really require degrees, like I don't know. What's called a rocket scientist or an engineer, or actually an engineer. I'm not sure. I don't even know if you need a degree like an engineer degree specific for that. But and then the other side, you just like there's other jobs you can get. And typically, I found the people that win that game are the people that don't go down the slower higher education route. But even more so now, when you consider like when you really boil it down, what do you need to know about as an online coach? Like it's not that complicated, like fat loss, muscle gain, a lot of it, and the biggest part of our job, a lot of our clients know though what we know almost. Some of my clients, I imagine, are actually smarter than me, maybe know more than me. Not tons of them, but there's definitely people I've worked with who I'm like, you really know your shit, but they can't apply it. They're not as good a practitioner maybe, or they just need someone to be adherent to or listen to them. And that's why those kind of soft skills, as it were, so important as a coach, and that's why we are kind of emphasizing the value on those elements versus like again being able to kind of pull a PhD out.
It's so unfortunate though, because I know that some industry are very, very slow in adapting, and many of those employees, for example, they still require you to actually show and demonstrate some kind of formal education or so. But that time will pass at some point. The next generations, I don't think that formal education will last for eternity. I really do believe that more and more things will just transition over to the online realm, and then you can pick and choose what it is that you are good at, what it is that you want to learn, right? And why should I go to once again an Ivy League school, pay thousands of dollars, go massively in depth when I can probably learn all of the material and find all of the material online? There are the wealth of knowledge that the internet has delivered to us is absolutely mind-blowing. And I think that this will only get better moving forward. Right? And you can basically learn everything online. Everything. It just requires you to put in the work and effort yourself, because you don't have that professor who tells you like, you have that deadline, you need to deliver XYZ here on that day. Right? And that is where many people are then, of course, kind of falling off the wagon, because the work ethic of sitting down themselves and doing something themselves without having the boss in front of behind you is hard to do. And we know what we are talking about because we are self-employed, right? It's sometimes very, very hard if you don't have anyone that tells you like, this is what you need to do here this week, this is what I need you to do here this day, etc., etc. And yeah, once again, I really do believe, especially in the online realm of coaching, contact the right people, right? Get in touch with people, learn from them, learn from the practitioners, and then the theoretical stuff you can pick up on the internet. I mean, there is so much. And even if you then want to really go into depth about certain areas, you can even go into textbooks and stuff and learn it for yourself as well.
Yeah, it just makes me think of A few things. I know I just checked recently. I think I still have $5,000 that I owe for my student loan, but it makes no sense to pay it off actually, because of, some interest rates and blah, blah, blah. So I was lucky enough that I actually makes sense. I'm kind of making good of that money in a sense. I'm better to own it than pay it off. Anyway, that wasn't what I was going to say. It was when I had lectures at university. I know you you were doing life sciences for a little bit and you were in the lab and everything, right? But I was just like, a lot of my lectures were just massive, like theater. And I was just sitting at the back, like, you could just sit there, you could skip the lecture, you could not concentrate, like that. You can't just like put your hand up and ask questions all the time. It's not intimate like maybe school is. So, and this year, everyone was just doing like online lectures anyway. So I was like, geez, what are people paying for now? It's scary.
Yeah,
so,
the thing is that I have a big issue with our educational system, because the ones who are able to deliver on a specific deadline are the ones rewarded. But that doesn't tell you that that person is smart or has the right work ethic. They are basically a puppet, or you're good at just following orders. And that sounds awful to some ears. I know that. And this is not meant in an offensive way, because this is also somewhat how life works, right? You can only get money in return if you deliver something on a specific date, for example. However, at the same time, what if someone has their strength somewhere else? They will have bad grades in the school. They will probably not be supported, not go through the best educational system. While in reality, they are a hyper genius maybe in one field only. But they suck big time in regards to maybe also socializing, maybe in regards to they are the weirdos, etc., etc. So it's not being supported that you are then a creative individual. You're only kind of rewarded when you can do what you're supposed to be doing, when you are just good at being a sheep. And this is something that I have a massive issue with. And you can't tell me that individualization is being kind of massively supported or rewarded in school, because that is impossible. And I'm not judging the teachers or the professors for that, because that is something that the government actually should take care of. But if you have a class with 25 individuals and you are a teacher and you have only 45 minutes for 25 individuals, you can't actually go down on an individual basis. And then it's just like, okay, here's what I need you to do. And those who can't do that, sorry, but you are left behind, kind of. And that is something that I have a massive issue with. And once again, one of the reasons why I think that the educational system, if you have some kind of degree or so, it doesn't really tell me that much. It tells me that you are good at doing the task and delivering to a certain date, but some people aren't, and that doesn't make them less smart, less, I don't know, energetic or so, whatever, right? Some people have some kind of times where they are having a hard time concentrating, for example, right? Once again, there are so many things that play into that, but only because you're able to get a certain degree doesn't tell anything about the skills that individual and also the talents that individual really has. And it's very much unfortunate. And this is something that, of course, I have to think about massively as well, because I have 2 kids that are growing up and I need to consider what to do with those kids as well.
Yeah, I always think, like, when someone has a degree, it shows, I mean, to get that degree, they obviously have the skills that you need to get a degree. So, like you said, they need to be able to meet deadlines. They need to be able to, like, show a certain level of, intelligence and ability to write or whatever it is that their degree is for. So it just shows a certain proficiency, but you can show that in other ways as well, that you don't need necessarily a degree.
Yeah. And so many people, all they are good at is learning for that specific exam. After that, they've just once again, I don't know, thrown all of the things they learned for out of the window because they don't need it anymore. So you're basically just practicing in passing the exam. And that is a big problem. right? And if
That's
you're
what
learning by
loads of
yourself,
them are.
if you're learning by yourself at home without any kind of deadline, and you're learning to understand things and to gain knowledge, this is a completely different thing. You're not just learning to pass a test. Right? And once again, some people are very, very good at passing tests because they're sitting down, they have their structure, they have their routine, they know how to make things stick just for a temporary amount of time, just for long enough so that they can't pass the test. But after that, it's gone and they don't need it anymore. And what's good about that? All that shows is that you're good at passing that test.
Yeah,
but that doesn't
memorizing versus understanding.
Yeah.
That's the understanding part, like, that's huge. Yeah. When you understand it, that's where the magic happens. And there's barely ever you have enough time and whatever it is to actually fully understand it. Yeah. So
sorry, I'm getting very passionate about those things. Yeah. Like, honestly, because I think that there's just something massively wrong when it comes to that. And so many structures and the educational system is in place since such a long time. And we have learned so much. Science has evolved, right? We know so much more about us, about just human psychology and stuff like that, human behavior, that we should, of course, then also modernize or let the systems, not just the educational system, but all systems evolve with that. And there are laws in place that are in place since the 50s. And it's just ridiculous. And that makes me so passionate because, once again, I have two kids that are growing up, and then seeing them going through an educational system like that, which is not really modernized any longer, kind of makes me first and foremost scary, but also very much passionate because I would love to see somewhat of a change there. So sorry if that was too much for the vast majority of listeners. But once again, I'm always trying to keep it concise, but I can't. This is, I think, who it is that I am. So sorry for that, guys.
So I'm the concise one. It's all right. Should we call it there?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to do a giveaway this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need a question now.
Yeah, we need a question.
I have one in mind.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's any
good. Because I'm still at education and all that kind of stuff.
That's where I am. So I just wanted to, what was your highest level of education, and did you need it for the job that you're currently doing? Something like that. That'd be interesting to hear.
I think even there's a statistic somewhere out there, I don't really know the numbers anymore, that a vast majority of people is the education that they took is not in the field where they are now working at. So I would be very interested to hear what people have to say here in the comment section, and whether this kind of confirms also some kind of, or somewhat, my biases that I have at the moment.
And remember, if you have questions for next time, comment in the YouTubes.
Absolutely. And if you're already doing that, hit the notification button, hit the like button, and hit the subscribe button. So guys, as always, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for enduring the rants, the ramblings that we have, or rather I have. Steve is always concise, as we learned. And yeah, I guess I speak to you guys next week. Cheers.
So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people, but each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for People within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge, and I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.